If you're 30-something and you hear the name Suzuki Baleno, you probably see this before your eyes. Yuck. This was Suzuki's first attempt at a global compact car. Today, Global Baleno looks like this, and it's a super mini.
Baleno first appeared in concept form during the 2015 Geneva Motor Show as the IK2 concept. Half a year later, in Frankfurt, Suzuki has shown us the production model. Interesting bit is the Dual SHVS hybrid system.
If you ever wondered what the plastic engine covers are for in some cars, it's so you don't have to see this. This is the 1.2 Dualjet SHVS engine in all its glory. SHVS stands for Smart Hybrid Vehicle by Suzuki, something you probably now wish I'd kept to myself.
SHVS is not a classic hybrid like in a Toyota Prius. If you want to impress your friends, you can tell them it's more like KERS from F1. Kinetic energy recuperated during deceleration is stored in batteries under the front seats and is used to power AC when the engine shuts off, to turn the engine back on and then to aid the engine during acceleration. However, at no time the car is powered solely by electric energy.
If you expect significantly better performance, you'll be disappointed. Power is the same 90 horsepower regardless whether this is the SHVS or not. Torque is 120 Newton meters in both cars, and 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time is 12.3 seconds, regardless of whether the car is a hybrid or not. The only difference is fuel economy, and that's 4.2 liters per 100 kilometers combined for dual jet without hybrid and 4 liters for SHVS. In urban cycle, the difference grows to an astonishing 0.6 of a liter per 100 kilometers. Wow! This means, all other things being equal, the price difference between a regular 1.2 dual jet and a hybrid will pay off after about 300,000 kilometers driving in the urban cycle. So you're saving about 80 euro cents per 100 kilometers on petrol alone, but you have to take into account local taxes, incentives, and so on, those that apply to hybrid cars. However, even if we take London's congestion charge, both cars emit above 75 grams CO2 per kilometer, so Baleno is exempt only from road tax. And you don't need a hybrid for that, because regular 1.2 dual jet also emits less than 100 grams per kilometer.
In real life, Baleno SHVS uses about 5 liters per 100 kilometers in combined cycle. 5.2 was my best result, but judging by the trip computer readouts, it is possible to achieve the manufacturer's claims driving at a constant speed of about 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. So at least the car is economical. If you want a bit more oomph, you have to pay even more for a 1-liter booster jet, which uses more fuel and emits more CO2 than dual jet. You shave about 1 second from the 0 to 100 km per hour acceleration time. Honestly, not worth it.
Speaking of money, this car costs about 17,600 euro. You can save yourself about 2 grand if you lose the hybrid business. A comparably spec'd Skoda Fabia will set you back 19 grand, and that's before we get to CO2. If you want to match Baleno's sub 100 emissions, you will have to buy a diesel Fabia, and with options this takes you into low 20s. And Fabia feels, I never thought I'll say that, a bit more upscale. It has more options to choose from, although it is smaller inside than the Baleno. However, in a Skoda, you don't get squeaky seats, like in the Baleno. It squeaks on every bump. And if you want more bang for your buck, there's always Fiat Tipo.
Compared to Fabia and Tipo, the Baleno interior feels outdated, even with the touch display infotainment system. Everything is in its place, but it just feels like from a cheap 80s car. It's not a very pleasant car to be in. It's okay to drive around town and on straight roads, but corners are Baleno's nemesis.
First of all, you have to turn the steering wheel a lot more than you would expect for a car to actually start changing direction. Secondly, I'm usually way too deep into the turn, so I have to brake mid-corner and turn the wheel even more, which exposes a lot of body roll. So, a word of advice: when driving the Baleno, and if you see a corner ahead, slow down, take your foot off the gas, preferably brake early, and then drive through the corner much slower than you would in any other car. Blimey.
And the steering does not go back to the center position by itself. It's cool if you want to scare your passenger or pretend you have some sort of an autopilot feature, but in everyday life, it's just an annoyance.
Another problem are bumps on the road. Despite the suspension being relatively soft, damping is just terrible.
Driving to my filming location, I have to pass about a kilometer stretch of very poor asphalt, which requires repair, but is not repaired due to numerous construction sites around there. I drove everything here from my MX-5, which is hardly the most comfortable car in the world, to Mercs and Rolls-Royces, and Baleno is one of the worst cars out here. At least it has a protective panel underneath the engine, so you'll lose a bit of plastic before you do any real damage. There are decent cup holders, a cubby for your bits and pieces, but the glove box and storage under the armrest are small. You do get adaptive cruise control, which is uncommon in Super Minis, but the collision alert is too sensitive and can detect cars where there aren't any. For example, it sometimes mistakes a lamppost located on the outside of corners for cars. Depending on the market, brake radar support may be available only on higher trim models, so you can skip it along with sat-nav and use your own device instead. Visibility is okay, but in the rearview mirror I see some distortion on the rear window, so cars in a distance are also distorted. A minor annoyance, but an annoyance nonetheless. Good news in the back, there is a lot of legroom and decent headroom for a small car like this. Okay, there is no armrest, but on higher trim cars you get 60-40 split backrests. Thanks to double floor in the boot, you get almost flat loading surface, almost because the guy with measuring tape clearly went out for lunch and the car was signed off for production without him. You had one job. The double floor in the 355-liter boot is so solid you could use it for self-defense, however dropping it all the way down is a bit fiddly. It's easier to store it vertically behind the rear seats. The car comes with a repair kit. A spare wheel may be available in some markets. In Poland, it costs about €150.
Suzuki Baleno is very much a value for money car, and unfortunately Euro NCAP results reflect that. Whatever Suzuki says in its promotional materials, this car has spacious interior, it's relatively fuel efficient, and it's a sensible choice. Just please, please, please don't make me drive it ever again.
And what are you looking for in a car? Style, performance, emotions? Or maybe you just want a cheap runabout? Let me know in the comments below, share, rate and subscribe. If you like what I do, please contribute to my PayPal or Patreon, you'll find the links in the description below. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, new reviews every Friday. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.